Let's play a little thought experiment. You've just won the cosmic lottery. Out of all the species you could be born as, a pampered house cat, a soaring golden eagle, even an opportunistic raccoon dining on pizza crusts, your DNA roulette wheel lands on Emperor Penguin Chick. Congratulations! You're about to experience the Antarctic equivalent of a brutal winter boot camp, complete with mandatory fasting, furious winds, and an extended stay in your father's armpit. If you thought human babies had it rough because they cry and someone changes their diapers, prepare to have your expectations adjusted. This is the story of how life begins when you're a ball of fluff destined for the world's coldest nursery. The world's worst maternity ward. Your story begins in the deep freeze of Antarctica. It is the dead of winter. Imagine standing on a slab of sea ice in complete darkness. The sun won't rise for another 2 months. A wall of wind slams you like an industrial fan set to hurricane, carrying knives of ice that penetrate layers of feathers and fat. Temperatures hover around minus 35 degrees Celsius on a good day, and that's before wind chill pushes it to minus 60 degrees Celsius. This is not a place where anything soft and squishy should be born. The timing of emperor penguin reproduction defies logic to those of us who grew up with central heating. They lay their single egg in mid-May or June, right when the Antarctic winter is hitting its stride. Why? Because the whole cycle is timed so that chicks are big enough to go to sea when food is most plentiful in summer. In other words, your parents scheduled your birthday not for comfort, but for survival. Mom, we need to talk about her. Emperor penguin mothers invest an incredible amount of energy into producing that egg. She's been feeding intensively for weeks to build up the reserves needed to lay a giant egg. An egg so large that, proportionally, it would be like a human mother delivering a baby the size of a 6-year-old. She lays exactly one because her body can't handle more. Then, in a move that might sound heartless but makes sense in penguin logic, she leaves. She has to. Her job now is to replenish her energy so she can return later with enough food to feed you. So she waddles up to 100 kilometers back to the open ocean over treacherous ice, jumps into freezing water, and begins gorging on fish and krill. Your father watches her leave. His eyes have that "don't leave me with the kid" look. But he knows the routine.
Dad's yoga session from hell. Dad's part in this arrangement is nothing short of heroic, or insane, depending on your perspective. He carefully scoops the egg with his feet, rolling it up onto the top of his webbed toes. Why? Because if the egg touches the ice, it will freeze solid in minutes. Emperor penguins have evolved a special brood pouch, a patch of skin that folds down over the egg, creating a warm pocket using Dad's body heat. That brood pouch is now your incubator. It also means your father has to stand upright, balancing the egg on his feet for the next 65 to 75 days without dropping it. He can't sit, he can't lie down. He has to fast the entire time. Yes, you read that correctly. Dad goes roughly 4 months without eating a single fish or shrimp. He loses up to half his body weight. That's like a human father staying in a sauna, holding a raw egg between his toes, wearing a tuxedo, with no food, no water, and winds howling at 200 kilometers per hour. Netflix will have nothing on that level of commitment. He's not alone, of course. Imagine thousands of male penguins standing shoulder to shoulder on the ice. They form giant huddles that look like feather-covered clusters of grapes. These huddles are vital. Without them, each individual would freeze. Penguins on the outer edge bear the brunt of the wind. After a while, they slowly shuffle inward while those who were in the middle shuffle out, creating a convection flow of bodies. It's a penguin dance that continues day and night, despite blizzards and darkness. Each step is tiny. It takes roughly an hour for a bird to make a complete circuit from the edge of the huddle to the center and back. No one directs this choreography. There's no penguin conductor. It just happens through innate behavior, one of nature's most wonderful examples of cooperation. Now, you're curled up inside that brood pouch, oblivious to the suffering outside. Your father's feet are the only thing between you and certain death. He might be hallucinating about fish. He might be cursing under his breath in penguinese about your mother's timing, but he doesn't waver. He sings soft trills into the dark, part of his courtship call that will help your mother find him later. The colony is alive with this haunting song, the soundtrack of survival. Hatching into chaos. After roughly 2 months of being an egg, you decide it's time to make an entrance. Using a small, temporary tooth called an egg tooth, you peck at the shell from within. It takes hours. Finally, a crack appears. Your tiny beak emerges. The shell splits. You tumble out into your father's brood pouch, and he gently helps remove the remaining shell fragments. Welcome to Antarctica. Let's pause and look at you. A wobbly gray chick weighing about 150 to 200 grams. Your eyes are open, but not fully functional. Your head is too big for your body. Your legs are stubby. You're covered in fluffy down that is not waterproof. You are vulnerable. But you are alive, thanks to Dad's 4-month fast. What do? You immediately start begging. Emperor chick begging calls are piercing. You sound like a squeaky toy under distress. Dad, who has not eaten since May, somehow manages to produce a curd-like substance from his esophagus. Penguins call it crop milk, and feeds you. It's not much, but it tides you over until Mom returns. You curl back under the brood pouch. Do you feel guilty? You shouldn't. This is simply how the species works. Dad's sacrifices ensure the species' continuity. Yet it's hard not to imagine him thinking about his longed-for fish buffet. Maybe he regrets not being born as a seagull. Mom's glorious return. Approximately 7 to 10 days after you hatch, a figure appears on the horizon. It's your mother, waddling back from the sea, belly distended with partially digested fish. She has traveled dozens of kilometers, often through whiteout conditions, guided by the haunting calls of the males and her memory of the colony's location. She zeroes in on your father's voice among thousands. Emperor penguins have unique vocal signatures, like fingerprints, that allow mates to find each other amid the cacophony. She locates him, waddles up, and they perform a reunion dance, stretching their necks, clapping beaks, trumpeting. If penguins had eyebrows, they'd be raised in excitement. Then comes your first proper meal. Mom leans down, opens her beak, and regurgitates a slurry of half-digested fish into your mouth. It is warm. It smells like the fish market after a thunderstorm. You gulp it down greedily. Dad, eyes sunken, feathers dull, looks relieved. His 4-month detox is over. He has done his duty. He passes you to Mom, then promptly turns and heads toward the sea like a penguin at the start of a marathon. He may have lost half his body weight. He may stumble. He may get knocked over by wind. But nothing will stop him from reaching food. It's his turn to eat until he's stuffed. Creche life, kindergarten of the frozen wastes. With Mom now responsible for feeding you, she can't always keep you under her brood pouch. She also needs to return to sea to fish. What happens to you when both parents are away? Enter the creche, the emperor penguin's version of daycare. Imagine hundreds or thousands of fluffy gray chicks, all roughly the same age, huddled together on the ice. They chirp constantly. They fall over. They nibble on each other's feathers. They sneeze into the Antarctic air, creating tiny clouds that freeze instantly. This is your new home for much of the day. When you're cold, you burrow into the mass of chicks. When you're hungry, you scream into the void and hope your returning parent hears you. Creches serve multiple purposes. They provide warmth. A single chick has a high surface area relative to its volume. It loses heat quickly. A group of chicks can warm each other. Creches also provide safety from predators. Giant petrels and skuas circle overhead, seeking any unattended chick. Penguins are not above cannibalism either. Though rare, desperate birds may attack unattended chicks. In a creche, there are many eyes, many beaks, and a better chance that your predator will choose someone else. The downside? Creches are noisy, messy, and chaotic. You will be pooped on. You will poop on someone else. You will get stepped on by an adult. In the creche, you learn social cues. You learn to recognize your parents' calls in a sea of nearly identical voices. Emperor penguin parents returning from sea stand on the edge of the colony and call. Their chick hears them and shuffles through the mass toward them. It is crucial to respond quickly. Missed meals can be deadly. Because your growth is explosive, doubling your weight every week for the first month, missing even one feeding can set you back.
Puberty in a polar desert. As weeks go by, you grow. Your down becomes fluffier. You weigh a few kilograms. You're still small enough to fit under a brood pouch, but you're getting heavy. Your parents now rotate longer fishing trips. They travel maybe 50 to 100 kilometers to find fish, leaving you hungry for longer stretches. Climate variability plays a role here. Sea ice extent changes from year to year, influencing how far adults must travel. If sea ice breaks up early, food may be closer. If it remains extensive, parents must walk farther. This can mean the difference between a well-fed chick and a starving one. Environmental scientists warn that as climate change reduces sea ice, emperor penguin populations could decline dramatically. For you, that means you might be one of the last of your kind to experience these ancient migratory patterns. You also start exploring beyond the creche. You practice tobogganing, sliding on your belly across the ice while pushing with your flippers and feet. It's like penguin skateboarding. You practice using your beak to peck at snow and ice. You learn what ice tastes like. Spoiler, nothing, but you keep trying. Your flippers strengthen. You sometimes fall on your face, pick yourself up, and waddle on. Your sense of balance improves. But you still cannot swim. If you fell into water now, your downy feathers would soak up water like a sponge and you'd drown. This is a strong incentive to avoid the ocean until you're ready. Speaking of feathers, you are about to undergo the most awkward phase of your life, molting. At around 2 to 3 months, you begin to shed your down, replacing it with juvenile plumage. This new coat is waterproof and insulating, critical for survival in the ocean. But the process is patchy and itchy. You look like a teenager with a bad haircut. Tufts of down cling to your body, sometimes only on one side. You scratch with your beak. You rub against other chicks. You leave a trail of feathers behind you. It is messy. During this time, you cannot enter the water because your feathers are not fully waterproof. You also cannot fully regulate your temperature because the old and new feathers create cold spots. It is an uncomfortable, vulnerable stage. First swim, the most terrifying bath of your life. At last, you have your full set of juvenile feathers. You are about 5 months old, weigh around 10 to 12 kilograms, and can no longer fit under your mother's brood pouch. She's grateful. It's time to do what penguins are born to do: swim. The first time you see the ocean, it may scare you. It's a black, endless expanse. The sound of ice cracking and waves lapping is foreign. You hesitate. Other chicks gather at the water's edge. An older juvenile takes the plunge. He disappears. A second later, his head pops up and he shoots through the water like a torpedo. Okay, you can do this. You waddle to the edge, lean forward, and belly flop into the freezing sea. Instantly, you are buoyant. Your flippers, which on land look like awkward paddles, become powerful hydrofoils. You carve through the water, lungs burning from the cold. You instinctively know how to hold your breath and how to exhale bubbles to equalize pressure. The ocean is dark and full of life. Tiny crustaceans, krill, drift in red clouds. You snap them up with your beak. Fish dart past. You chase them, though you're not very good at catching them yet. You are clumsy, overshooting your targets, bumping into ice. But you feel something you have not felt on land. Grace. This is what your body was designed for. You will spend the next several years at sea. You'll grow bigger, learn to dive hundreds of meters deep. Adult emperor penguins can dive over 500 meters and stay down for 20 minutes.
and you'll travel thousands of kilometers, following schools of fish and swarms of krill. You will endure storms, avoid leopard seals and killer whales, and remember to return to your natal colony when you reach maturity at around 5 years old. That's right, emperor penguins are long-lived. They might reach 20 years or more if they avoid predators and starvation. But only about half of the chicks born in a given year survive their first year. Predation, starvation, harsh weather, and breakups of sea ice claim many lives.
Climate change, the invisible predator.
No story about emperor penguins is complete without mentioning the elephant, or maybe the melting glacier, in the room. Climate change. Emperor penguins rely on stable sea ice for breeding and molting. Too little sea ice means there's nowhere safe to incubate eggs. Too much sea ice means adults have to travel longer distances to reach food. Recent satellite monitoring and field studies show that some emperor penguin colonies have experienced catastrophic breeding failures when sea ice broke up early, drowning chicks who had not yet developed waterproof feathers. Scientists project that if current warming trends continue, many emperor penguin colonies will shrink or disappear by the end of this century. For you, the chick, this means your struggle may be for nothing if the colony's breeding platform disintegrates under your toes. It also means your species' future is uncertain, and your story, while comedic in our telling, is part of a bigger tragedy unfolding at the poles. Returning as an adult, the circle of suffering. Let's fast forward. You survived your juvenile years at sea, beat the odds, and now you're a sleek black and white adult with a splash of yellow on your neck and chest. You've eaten your weight in fish hundreds of times. You've learned to navigate using the sun, the stars, and maybe the Earth's magnetic field. Something inside you, a hormonal surge triggered by the lengthening days, tells you to return to the place of your birth, to breed. You follow other penguins, waddling inland. It's late autumn again. Temperatures plunge. You are starting the cycle over. If you're male, you know what awaits. Months of fasting, standing, and huddling while you incubate the precious egg. If you're female, you'll lay that one massive egg, transfer it to your partner, and then leave for the ocean, hoping he doesn't drop it. This is your life now. Year after year, if you're lucky, you will raise chicks, losing weight each winter and regaining it each summer. You will endure storms, hunger, and the pressure of an entire species' survival on your flippers. And you know what? If you're reading this, you might think, why do they bother? Because emperor penguins, like all species, have evolved to fit a niche. They have no choice but to follow the rhythms written in their genes. They don't complain. They don't start petitions. They simply do what they must to perpetuate their lineage in the harshest environment on Earth. Lessons from a chick. What can we, comfortable humans with heated homes and internet connections, learn from this? For one, resilience. Emperor penguin chicks are born into conditions that would kill us within minutes. They endure by relying on their parents, their community, and their own adaptability. They remind us that survival often depends on cooperation. Thousands of males huddle to save each other. Chicks huddle to share warmth. Individuals sacrifice for the good of the next generation. The species has thrived for millennia because of these behaviors. And yet, they also remind us of fragility. Climate change, something we humans largely cause, threatens to unravel this finely tuned system. The fate of emperor penguins is tied to decisions made far from Antarctica by policymakers, corporations, and everyday people. So yes, it sucks to be born as an emperor penguin chick. You're delivered into darkness onto your father's feet. You freeze, starve, beg, and poop in a daycare that smells like fish. You risk being eaten by birds, seals, and orcas. You might die because the ice you stand on breaks up too soon. You have no time to frolic or play. Your childhood is a crash course in survival. And if you live through all that, you return to do it all again, this time starving yourself for your own chick. It's a life of hardship, sacrifice, and unimaginable cold. But there's also beauty. You slide on your belly under the aurora australis. You dive with grace through turquoise water under icebergs sculpted like cathedrals. You hear the haunting calls of thousands of penguins echo across the frozen landscape.
You feel the warmth of your father's brood pouch and the gentle peck of your mother feeding you. You witness the sun rise after months of darkness, painting the snow pink. You are part of a story millions of years old. If after all this you still think being an emperor penguin chick sounds appealing, please consult a doctor, or perhaps a zoologist. For the rest of us, we can appreciate these remarkable birds from afar, through documentaries, research papers, and maybe the occasional darkly humorous YouTube video. And perhaps, just perhaps, we can also be inspired to ensure that the ice on which they stand remains solid long enough for many more chicks to complain about being born there.